Okay, so in this video, I am going to go over what's happening in Jackson, Mississippi. And there are actually a couple of other cities where this sort of Republican takeover is somewhat has not a real takeover, but it's Republicans stepping in to help assist the black-run Democrat cities across the country. Right now, the biggest hoopla is in Jackson. And I found it to be fascinating. And of course, black people are upset. Oh, this is Jim Crow all over again. The black Democrats love to cry racism anytime Republicans do something that they don't agree with. And you leave these black run cities to rot because all the black folks that actually have some productivity about themselves, they go follow the white folks to the suburbs. You know, we had white flight. You also got black flight. So I'm going to go over a couple of things. I'm actually not upset with the Mississippi Republicans for doing what they're doing. I think something similar is about to happen in St. Louis, one of the most dangerous cities on earth. But here we go.
The crime tape still lingering on Cox Street, where a woman who was 12 weeks pregnant was shot and killed.
It doesn't sit well with me.
According to Jackson police, 25-year-old Aaliyah Parker was shot and killed Sunday morning. Investigators say the suspect knocked on the front door, and after one man opened it, the attacker began shooting. Parker and her unborn baby died at UMMC.
It's very, very sad. My heart goes out to the parent. It shouldn't be happening, but in this day and time, we need to do what we can.
The expecting mother is just one of 5 people in Jackson who were killed by gun violence in the last 5 days. The string of violence beginning Thursday, October 7th on Alamo Street, where Jackson police say Leonard White Jr. was killed after suspects in a Honda fired bullets at him. The other separate homicides happening on Magnolia Street Saturday, Marydale Street Monday, and at the Serenity Apartments on Hospital Drive.
So yeah, as we can see, that was just a little clip. Jackson, Mississippi is off the chain with violent crime. They have the highest homicide rate in the nation for any major city. It is the capital and largest city of the state of Mississippi. And it's remarkable that they have the number of homicides they do in comparison to their total population. I'm going to give you some data that's going to blow your mind. The Mississippi Republicans are stepping in to have greater control over the court system in Jackson because they're backlogged with criminals that haven't been prosecuted yet. They're also going to have more oversight over the city's water system because, for those of you that don't know, last year they had major flooding in the Jackson, Mississippi area. The primary river down there is called the Pearl River. I've been to Mississippi, but I've never been to Jackson. I'm going to visit one day. I love to travel. But that river has flooded in the past many times. Mississippi's a relatively low-lying state, so floods aren't uncommon in Mississippi. But when the river flooded, it damaged the water treatment plant, and the Jackson, Mississippi residents were having brown water come out of their taps. The water delivery system was basically compromised, and people didn't have access to fresh water. And we all know how important water is. So I'm going to go over a few statistics real quick. I don't want to make this video too long. So basically, they are going to have the Mississippi Chief Justice elect or appoint several judges for this, I guess you could call it a district, where they're going to have expanded control over the area. It's not the whole city that the Republicans want to take over. It's a small portion of the city. For those of you that don't know, Jackson, Mississippi is the blackest major city in the nation. It's 82% black. Not hardly many white people in that city. They all went to the burbs years ago. And the black Democrats and some of the black residents are upset because the current judges that are there are appointed by the people, but in this case, they will be appointed by the Mississippi Chief Justice, who is, of course, a white Republican. And my whole thing is, Jackson is the capital city. You can't have your capital city and largest city in your state a war zone. You just can't. And this is very, very common around the country. You have all these major cities that are run by black Democrats, inhabited by a lot of black people. And I hate to say it as a black person, we as black people, we don't run our cities very well. At least the black Democrat run cities, which is pretty much all black run cities, because there ain't no such thing as a black Republican city in the nation. I don't think it exists. Maybe one day it will, but right now it don't exist. You look at St. Louis, you look at Baltimore, you look at Jackson, you look at Atlanta, you look at any city that's 40% black or higher, even some that are less than that, and they got black Democrats running the city, they are out of control. That's just what it is. So if you are a black Democrat and you are governing these people, why aren't you doing something to protect these people from this violent crime? Why aren't you locking these people up? Why aren't you giving them stiff sentences? Why aren't you seeking the death penalty in some of these cases so criminals would know that if we act a fool in Jackson, we're going to get put down or locked up for a very long time?
Jackson, Mississippi, back in the spotlight. The state legislature at odds over a bill creating a separate court system in the capital city where court officials would be appointed by state officials instead of elected, and nearly a fourth of Jackson would be under state control. It is the most recent example in a long history of clashes between the city of Jackson and the state of Mississippi. What will the bill look like by the time it reaches the governor's desk? Zincle Asamoah has the story.
A new Mississippi bill is fueling controversy and protest in the state's capital. The bill is aimed at crime, the state facing a higher homicide rate than any state in the country, according to 2020 CDC data, with Jackson's homicide rate increasing 66% from 2017 to 2020, according to policy group Empower Mississippi. On Thursday, controversial elements of the bill were scrapped in the state Senate, but tensions remain. State Democrats initially calling HB 1020 racist and unconstitutional. The original State House bill expands an 8.6 square mile district in Jackson known as the Capital Complex Improvement District, or CCID, growing to over 26 square miles within the city. It also created a new court system in the district where officials would be permanently appointed by state officials and not elected by Jackson residents. And the bill moved jurisdiction from the city of Jackson's police department to the state's Capitol Police.
It's taking power away from Jackson residents, but it's really kind of creating a city within a city.
State Representative Ronnie Crudup Jr. adding the proposal may have had to do with race.
Jackson's 85% black, but a lot of our more affluent and white residents were included in this expansion of the CCID.
The House bill's author, Representative John Thomas Trey Lamar, denies allegations redistricting was due to race.
All I'm interested in is helping make the capital city of the state of Mississippi safer. That's it.
The House bill now amended in the Senate by State Senator Bryce Wiggins.
Nobody, white, black, green, or blue, will tell you there's not a crime problem in Jackson. We've got to get a hand. They and us have got to get a handle on it.
His updated bill reverses the district expansion, eliminates the proposed new court system, and requires state and city police to reach an understanding together or go back to the drawing board.
Capitol Police have always had jurisdiction over the state capitol. What the Senate bill does is extend jurisdiction of the Capitol Police Department to all of the city of Jackson, and to work with via a memorandum with the Jackson Police Department to figure out the nuances and how that works.
If the bill passes, Wiggins says the state House and Senate must come to an agreement before it reaches the governor's desk. Zincle Asamoah.
Something's got to be done. I support the the Mississippi Republicans taking the lead, because you let the black Democrats control the city any further without doing nothing, the bodies are going to continue to stack up. It's a shame that these people are always talking about white supremacy and racism and always black fist in the air, pro-black this, pro-black that, but you're not pro-black life. You're not trying to protect these people who are getting their brains blown out by the dozens per month across this nation. And if Jackson, Mississippi was any bigger, their homicide rate would be even greater. But it's only a city of about 150,000 plus people. It's not a very big city. And as far as their water is concerned,
thank you so much. I appreciate you.
These fifth graders at Wilkins Elementary School should be in the classroom right now.
Can you all be careful, boys?
It's not time for recess. This is not a study break. In fact, these students were pulled out of class, to help load donations of water off this pickup truck and into their elementary school. They're just 10 to 11 years old, carrying stacks of water half their size.
Be careful, boys. Be careful, be careful.
For much of the year, nothing from the faucets is safe to drink. The sound of plastic, a signal to students in nearby classrooms that today Wilkins will have access to safe drinking water. But that's not always a guarantee.
And what is your product? Good job, good job.
Amy Stewart is teaching math to fourth graders in one of those nearby classrooms.
We waste water? We do not waste water. It's too precious.
On weeks where donations are low, Amy buys water for her students with money out of her own pocket.
It just seems like we're forgotten. We're just forgotten right here.
We've been following this school. Jackson have led to a rare intervention by the Justice Department, a federal takeover of Jackson's water system.
Nothing like starting a new job this way, huh?
The man standing at the front, answering questions during this town hall, is Ted Hennepin, the third-party manager appointed by a federal judge to try to find solutions. Hennepin has only been on the job for a few months, but the problems here in Jackson go back decades. A crumbling water plant in desperate need of repair. He tells me he hasn't even found all the problems yet.
This is really a failed system from an infrastructure standpoint.
How important is it to...
Such a shame what's happening down there in Jackson. The federal government is getting involved, and there's a governance board from the Mississippi Republicans that's going to be involved as well. And this problem didn't happen overnight. That water plant in that city has been decrepit. It's been falling apart. And it just goes to show you that the priorities of this city's elected officials have been way off the mark. You know your infrastructure is crumbling. You know you need money. You know you need resources to get that water plant up and running. That should have been one of their biggest priorities decades ago. And the people that were more intelligent and more competent and had more integrity to actually properly run this city left decades ago. They've been relocating to the Jackson, Mississippi suburbs for decades. I think the two biggest suburbs are Madison County and Rankin County. One is to the north, one is to the east. They're both majority white with a growing black population, but they don't have any infrastructure problems. And I'm pretty sure they both tap that same river to get their water. Every city has a water source, and a lot of its suburbs use the same water source as long as they're not too far away. Sometimes you get different river basins in different areas, but where I'm from in Atlanta, we have multiple river systems in our area because it's so geographically large. But that 3-county area, I guarantee you they all use the same river system. I guarantee it. And those suburban counties, they didn't have the issues that Jackson had during the recent flood. All right, in closing, you look at the population of a state that's similar to Mississippi's. Utah has about 3.338 million people, almost 3.4 million people. Remember, the city of Jackson has about 150,000 plus, maybe 155 or something like that at the most. In the total state, in 2022, Utah had 80 homicides. 80 for the whole state out of over almost 3.5 million people. Oh, well, Utah got money. Look at West Virginia, the poorest state in the nation with a white majority. 117 for the whole state in 2020. And this is all from reliable sources. #1 homicide rate in the country of all major cities. 133 homicides. I think this data was from 2020. So you got 133 homicides in your city. In the city. There are over 3 million people, or close to 3 million people. I think it's around 2.9 plus million, almost 3 million people in Mississippi. But the city of Jackson has more homicides than entire state populations. Look at a much bigger city like Vegas, for example. Population 646. Their total amount of homicides for 2022, I believe, 146. So again, and Vegas is not exactly the safest city, but it ain't poverty. It ain't a lack of resources. It's a broken city with people who are part of a broken culture. And that's another conversation for another video. Black culture is broken. And until we fix our culture, this stuff is going to continue to happen all across the country. So we'll see what happens with the whole Capital City Improvement District. The Capitol Police are going to have greater jurisdiction over the city of Jackson. Um, I think that the pride and ego of these black leaders, so-called leaders, is hurt because how dare these white racist Republicans come into our city and take over our city? This is our city that you have run into the ground. And you know, it's certain things that are historical. Yes, there's racism and white supremacy, but at the end of the day, proper leadership does matter. You look at some of these black-run cities over the past few decades. Look at Detroit. Detroit filed for bankruptcy, the largest city in American history to file for bankruptcy because the leadership there was just abusing the people's money. And of course, a big chunk of the taxpayer base left. The white voters up there moved to the suburbs to the north. But it's remarkable to see how these cities just crumble. And the black folks that's left that can't afford to get out and go to the suburbs, they're just left to suffer. Those kids in them classrooms that don't have running water they can rely on. You can't flush the toilet without water. You can't drink brown water. You can't cook with brown water. You need water for everything. Our bodies are 65 and 70% water. It's the most critical resource known to man. It's more important than anything. You can survive for, I think, 2-3 weeks without food, but you can only survive 3 days without water. You gotta have water. And you gotta be safe. Kids deserve to live. Until we as black people start demanding better, we're never gonna get better. Appreciate y'all watching the video.